I collected them for 3 months, the girl said. Daniel Harper looked up slowly from the papers he had been reviewing. She stepped closer to the table and placed the bag down carefully, like it contained something fragile. Daniel glanced at the bag, then at her. "What's inside the bag?" he asked. "Evidence," she said. "Evidence of what?" "My mom didn't steal the money," the girl said. "They said she did, but she didn't. My name is Annie. My mom works here." Daniel studied her face for a long moment, then leaned back slightly in his chair. "Why me?" he asked. "Why bring this to me instead of going to the police?" "Because the police already came," she said, "and the hotel already decided. And the case has been on hold for 3 months. They said there isn't enough proof. But I have proof. I just needed time to collect it." Daniel's eyes moved back to the plastic bag. He opened it and began taking things out one by one: work schedules, laundry receipts with printed timestamps, room cleaning reports, printed sheets with camera time records, and several pages filled with careful handwriting and colored lines, a timeline. He looked up again. "You collected all this?" he asked. "Yes, sir." "For 3 months?" "Yes, sir." Daniel tapped the stack lightly. "Where did you get all this?" "Annie. Work schedules, elevator logs, camera times. These aren't easy things to get. My mom kept copies of her schedules at home," Annie said. "The laundry room prints receipts with the time on them, so I kept those. The security guard showed me the elevator screen a few times when I brought him coffee, and the camera times were on the report they gave my mom, so I wrote them down before they took the paper back." Daniel watched her very carefully as she spoke. "The case has been on hold for 3 months, Annie continued. "They said there wasn't enough proof to arrest her, but not enough proof to say she didn't do it. So she lost her job, and the case just stayed there, not moving, like we were just waiting for something bad to happen." Daniel didn't respond immediately. He flipped through the crayon timeline again: rooms, times, arrows, elevator movements, all organized with surprising precision. "Crayons don't change elevator logs," Annie said quietly. Daniel looked up at her again when she said that. After a moment, he turned slightly to his assistant. "Call Reynolds. Tell him to come to the lobby. Now." His assistant nodded and walked away quickly. Annie stood still, her hands now clasped together in front of her, watching Daniel's face, trying to see if he believed her. A few minutes later, the hotel general manager, Mr. Reynolds, hurried across the lobby. He slowed down when he saw Daniel sitting with the girl and papers spread all over the table. "Mr. Harper," Reynolds said, "you wanted to see me?" Daniel gestured to the chair. "Sit down, Reynolds." Reynolds sat. Daniel slid the papers toward him. "Do you know what this is?" Reynolds looked at the documents, then at Annie, then back at Daniel. "It looks like documents from the incident 3 months ago, sir." "The incident," Daniel repeated. "You mean the theft from the VIP suite, the one where a housekeeper was accused, the one that has been on hold for 3 months?" "Yes, sir," Reynolds said carefully. Daniel's voice stayed calm, but it had changed. It was colder now. "Why do I not know about this?" Reynolds cleared his throat. "Sir, at that time you were overseas for the Singapore acquisition, and then in New York for the financing meetings. Mrs. Harper was handling several internal matters here at the hotel, including this situation." Daniel's eyes narrowed slightly. "My wife handled a theft investigation involving one of our employees and a VIP guest, and no one thought I should be informed?" Reynolds spoke slowly, choosing every word. "Mrs. Harper reviewed the internal reports with legal and security. There were some complications. The guest was very important, and the insurance company became involved. There were a few issues with the timeline and the camera outage, and legal advised that we pause the case until everything could be verified properly. That is why the case has been delayed." "For 3 months, Daniel said. "Yes, sir. There were additional problems that came up. Mrs. Harper decided it was safer to hold the case rather than make a decision without certainty." Daniel leaned back in his chair and looked at Annie, then back at Reynolds. "And during those 3 months, Daniel said slowly, this child collected work schedules, elevator logs, laundry receipts, and built a timeline, while our hotel, our legal team, and our management team paused the case." Reynolds did not answer. Daniel picked up the crayon timeline and held it up slightly. "Do you see this, Reynolds?" Daniel asked. "Do you see what this is?" Yes, sir, Reynolds said quietly. This, Daniel said, tapping the paper, is a child doing our investigation for us. Daniel put the paper down carefully and looked at Annie again. For 3 months, he said. You've been collecting proof because you believe your mother is innocent. Annie nodded once. Daniel held her gaze for a long moment, then said quietly, In this world, Annie, the truth is not what people say happened. The truth is what you can prove happened. He turned back to Reynolds. Reopen the file, Daniel said. Pull every keycard record, every elevator log, every camera backup, every staff schedule, and every incident report from that day. I want everything on my desk tonight. Yes, sir, Reynolds said immediately. Daniel then looked back at Annie. You spent 3 months collecting proof, he said. Now it's my turn. Daniel Harper didn't hesitate. The weight of 3 months of inaction, compounded by the meticulous evidence Annie had collected, left him no room to delay. He looked at Reynolds and said, Start the investigation immediately. I want everything pulled and verified. Today. No exceptions. Reynolds swallowed, quickly straightening his posture. Yes, sir. I'll alert IT and security to prioritize every log and camera backup related to the 12th floor VIP suite. All housekeeping schedules and keycard entries will be cross-checked. Daniel nodded, his gaze shifting back to Annie. You've done something remarkable. But now, it's my turn to ensure the adults do their job. From this moment, nothing is put on hold. We find the truth, and we find it correctly. Annie's eyes widened slightly, a mix of relief and cautious optimism flickering across her face. You mean it? Daniel leaned forward. I mean it. Every record, every timestamp, every receipt you've collected, we will verify it all, and any discrepancy will be addressed. We start now, Annie. Reynolds picked up his phone and started giving instructions, his fingers flying over the screen as he contacted the security team, IT staff, and the internal audit department. IT, he instructed, prioritize backups for the 12th floor cameras. All keycard logs from the last 3 months, pull them immediately. Security, get the housekeeping records and timestamps verified. Every single detail. Double-checked. Daniel watched as the hotel's internal mechanisms began to shift into motion, and he spoke to Annie quietly. You've given me the evidence. Now I'm giving you my promise. The investigation begins today. No delays, no excuses. Annie nodded, gripping the edges of the bag, feeling the first real sense that her mother, Sarah Johnson, might finally be vindicated. Reynolds returned a few minutes later, holding a tablet and a stack of printed sheets. We've started compiling a detailed cross-reference between your evidence and the hotel's official records. Preliminary results show some inconsistencies already, Mr. Harper. The elevator logs, housekeeping schedules, and laundry receipts don't align with the original report in several places. Daniel examined the first sheets. Each discrepancy, no matter how minor, was crucial. Good. Keep going. IT. Make sure every camera feed is backed up. We need the original footage, not summaries. I want to see everything exactly as it happened. And Reynolds, he added, document every step. Annie's timeline will guide us, but we need independent verification. Yes, sir, Reynolds said, nodding sharply. Annie bent closer, pointing to her crayon timeline. See here? My mom left room 1208 at 2:10, then went to the laundry at 2:16. But the report says she was in room 1216 at 2:18. The elevator logs show the guest elevator moving at that exact time, and housekeeping doesn't use that one. Daniel studied the timeline carefully, then looked at the keycard logs coming in from IT. Annie had been precise. Every line of her timeline matched exactly with the partial records now arriving on his tablet. Reynolds, Daniel said, his voice firm. This is serious. If Annie's observations hold up, then the original report incorrectly accused Sarah Johnson. That cannot continue. I want a full investigation completed today. No pauses, no delays, no waiting on anyone. Everyone who touches this, I need them accountable. Reynolds nodded. Understood, sir. We'll start with housekeeping schedules, keycard logs, laundry timestamps, and then move to camera footage. Every detail will be verified against Annie's records. Daniel turned to Annie. I need you to stay close. If you notice anything else that doesn't match your notes, tell us immediately. Your work has been invaluable. but we can't rely solely on your memory or your notes. Verification is critical. Annie's small hands tightened around her bag. I'll watch everything, she said. I won't let them say my mom did something she didn't. If this story touched your heart, please like this video and leave a comment telling us where you are watching from. Your support helps this story reach more people, and do not forget to subscribe to the channel to hear more stories about courage, justice, and kindness. Daniel offered a small nod of approval. Good. We start now, Annie. Today, your mother's name gets cleared if the evidence supports it. No excuses. Reynolds, already tapping commands into the tablet, spoke over his shoulder. IT team is starting the retrieval of all camera footage, including backups. Security will pull keycard logs for the 12th floor and cross-reference them with housekeeping schedules and laundry receipts. We'll flag any anomalies immediately. Daniel folded his hands and observed the action, thinking about how 3 months of inertia had threatened to ruin Sarah Johnson's life. A simple pause by management had compounded into a potential disaster. But now, with Annie's evidence and a commitment to immediate action, the tide was turning. Hours passed as they worked methodically. Annie guided Daniel and Reynolds through each piece of evidence she had collected. Every receipt, every schedule, every camera timestamp was cross-checked against official hotel records. As discrepancies emerged, Daniel felt the full weight of the oversight, the lapse of 3 months in which an innocent woman had been left suspended, vulnerable, and without recourse. Reynolds approached Daniel with a look of cautious optimism. Mr. Harper, initial verification is complete. The discrepancies are clear. The elevator logs and housekeeping schedules directly contradict the original report. Sarah Johnson could not have been in the VIP room at the time the theft occurred. Daniel studied the printouts. Every line, every timestamp, every annotation matched Annie's timeline. She had been right all along. He looked down at Annie. You did this. You made this possible. Your mother's innocence can finally be proven. Annie smiled faintly. Relief mingled with exhaustion. I just wanted them to see the truth. Daniel placed a reassuring hand on the timeline. And they will. Now, we follow through. I want the full camera review next. Every backup restored, every angle checked. Today, Sarah Johnson gets the investigation she deserved 3 months ago. Reynolds nodded again. Yes, sir. We'll get it done immediately. Daniel looked at Annie one last time before turning back to the unfolding investigation. We start now. No delays. No excuses. Justice waits for no one. Not even 3 months of pause. Annie set her bag down and watched as the team went to work. She had spent 3 months preparing for this moment. Now, with Daniel Harper taking immediate action, the truth had a chance to finally come to light. By mid-morning, the hotel's internal investigation was in full swing. Annie remained close to Daniel Harper, quietly observing as Reynolds and his team cross-referenced every piece of evidence she had collected against the hotel's official records. Work schedules, elevator logs, laundry receipts, keycard entries, and even notes from housekeeping supervisors were being meticulously compared. Each discrepancy she had identified was beginning to take shape as a concrete picture, revealing that her mother, Sarah Johnson, could not have been responsible for the theft of the VIP guests' cash and jewelry. Daniel leaned back in his chair, watching the flurry of activity with a focused intensity. The staff, initially hesitant about involving a child in a serious investigation, now worked with a sense of urgency, knowing that the credibility of the hotel and the career of an innocent employee were at stake. Annie pointed to a line on her timeline. See here, she said. This shows my mom leaving room 1208 at 2:10, going to the laundry room at 2:16. The original report says she was in room 1216 at 2:18, which isn't possible. Daniel examined the timeline and the receipts again, nodding. Every note matched perfectly with the logs that were now appearing on the tablet Reynolds held. Reynolds adjusted his tie nervously. I've already started flagging anomalies, Mr. Harper. So far, elevator logs, housekeeping schedules, and laundry receipts contradict the original report in several critical ways. Daniel looked down at Annie. You've done a remarkable job, but we can't rely solely on these notes. We need verification from all official records. Every camera feed restored. Every timestamp checked against the reports. Yes, sir, Annie said, gripping her bag slightly. Daniel turned back to Reynolds. I want the IT team to restore all camera backups, no matter how old, and verify them against these logs. Start with the 12th floor suite, then expand outward if necessary. I want every angle checked, no shortcuts. This is not just about correcting a report, it's about justice for Sarah Johnson. Reynolds nodded and left immediately, making calls to IT, security, and the audit department. Daniel returned his attention to Annie. You understand how serious this is, don't you? He asked. Yes, sir, Annie said, her voice small but firm. I want the truth to come out. I want them to see that my mom didn't do this. Daniel studied her for a long moment. There was something in her determination that reminded him of his own childhood struggles. Growing up in a working-class neighborhood, learning early on that being overlooked or underestimated could make life unfairly difficult. He saw that same tenacity in Annie. As the hours passed, the first batches of records came in. Keycard entries showed Sarah Johnson entering and leaving rooms on the 12th floor, consistent with her work schedule, but conflicting with the times noted in the original theft report. Elevator logs confirmed Annie's observations. The guest elevator was in use at times that made it impossible for her mother to have accessed the VIP suite. Laundry receipts further corroborated her timeline. The pieces were falling into place. Daniel watched as Annie carefully pointed out each matching discrepancy. This one, she said, tapping a printed receipt, shows she signed out laundry at 2:15. She couldn't have been in room 1216 at 2:18. It doesn't line up. Reynolds leaned over, scrutinizing the evidence. He's right, Daniel. The time frames just don't add up. Whoever filed the original report must have made assumptions, not verified facts. Daniel nodded, feeling a mixture of frustration and relief. 3 months of delay, Reynolds. 3 months where an innocent employee was suspended, waiting for someone to look at the facts. This ends now. Annie's small hands rested on the edge of the table as she watched the adults work. She felt a cautious optimism, a sense that the long hours she had spent observing, recording, and comparing evidence were finally being taken seriously. She had been silent for months, quietly gathering proof, and now it mattered. Reynolds turned to Daniel, tablet in hand. I've also started restoring camera feeds from the 12th floor. Some segments were deleted or corrupted, but IT has backups stored off-site. We can verify each frame against the keycard logs and Annie's timeline. Daniel's brow furrowed. Good. We need to make sure nothing is missing. Every camera angle must be accounted for. If Sarah Johnson was in the wrong place at the wrong time in the original report, we need to prove she wasn't. Clearly and definitively, Annie pointed at a specific segment of the timeline. Look here. Between 2:10 and 2:18, the elevator log shows the service elevator moving from the laundry area to the lobby. My mom never used the guest elevator. She can't be in the VIP suite at the same time. Daniel studied the logs as they streamed in from IT. Annie's notes aligned perfectly. Each timestamp corroborated what she had recorded over 3 months. This is precise, he said. She's right. The evidence supports her claim. The sense of urgency in the office intensified as more camera feeds were restored. Security personnel, who had initially doubted the relevance of a child's timeline, now examined every frame meticulously. Each elevator movement, hallway shot, and doorway entry was cross-referenced with keycard usage and housekeeping schedules. Daniel turned to Annie once more. You've done something extraordinary here. You've given us the framework to uncover the truth. Now it's our job to make sure the official records confirm it. Yes, sir, Annie said, a faint smile breaking across her face. She felt the first real sense of hope that her mother, Sarah Johnson, would finally have her name cleared. As mid-afternoon approached, the preliminary review of camera footage revealed clear evidence supporting Annie's timeline. One frame after another, her mother's movements were confirmed. She was cleaning rooms in accordance with her schedule, never entering the VIP suite during the time of the alleged theft. Each frame aligned perfectly with receipts and keycard logs. Daniel leaned back, folding his arms. This is more than just a correction to a report. This is vindication. Reynolds, make sure every piece of evidence is documented, time-stamped, and cross-verified. I want a formal record of the discrepancies and how they support Sarah Johnson's innocence. Reynolds nodded, already typing notes into the system. Yes, sir. I'll prepare a comprehensive report with all logs, receipts, and camera footage attached. It'll be ready for your review within the hour. Daniel looked at Annie, who had been quietly observing the entire process. You've done your part. Now we ensure the adults do theirs. Today, Sarah Johnson gets the investigation she should have had 3 months ago. Annie's hands clenched slightly around the edge of her bag, a mixture of nerves and anticipation. For the first time, she felt that her months of work, her dedication, her careful tracking of every detail were about to make a difference. The adults were finally paying attention, and the truth was finally within reach. Outside the hotel, the city moved on in its usual rhythm, unaware that inside, a miscarriage of justice was being corrected. Inside, Daniel, Annie, and Reynolds worked together to ensure that every piece of evidence was accounted for, every discrepancy confirmed, and every official record verified. For Annie and her mother, this was the turning point. 3 months of waiting, worrying, and collecting evidence were culminating in a moment that could finally restore justice. As the afternoon sun streamed through the lobby windows, Daniel looked at Annie. Stay close. Watch everything. If you notice anything that doesn't match your timeline, speak up. Today, we end the pause. Today, the truth comes out. Annie nodded firmly. She was ready. She had waited 3 months for this moment. And now, with Daniel Harper taking immediate action, her mother's name would finally be cleared. The investigation had shifted into high gear. Daniel Harper stood at the edge of the operations room, arms crossed, watching as Reynolds, the IT team, and security personnel worked in unison to verify every detail of Annie's meticulously collected evidence. The hum of computers, the clicking of keyboards, and the occasional murmur of discussions filled the room. For the first time since the incident 3 months ago, it felt like the truth had a chance to emerge untainted. Annie remained close to Daniel, her eyes scanning the monitors, her small hands clutching her bag. She had spent countless hours noting every detail: schedules, receipts, elevator logs, even the smallest discrepancies she had noticed. Now, seeing the investigation proceed with such urgency, she felt a cautious optimism creeping in. Daniel turned toward her. You've been precise, Annie. Now we'll see if the official records confirm what you've documented. Yes, sir, Annie said, her voice steady. Everything I have should match. Reynolds walked over, holding a tablet filled with keycard data and security camera logs. Mr. Harper, we've started matching the keycard entries to Annie's timeline. There are already notable inconsistencies in the original report. Sarah Johnson could not have accessed the VIP suite at the times listed. The elevator logs, too, support her schedule. Daniel nodded, studying the screen. He could see the meticulous nature of Annie's work reflected in the data. Each timestamp she had noted lined up with the hotel's own records. It was remarkable. Bring up the camera footage from the 12th floor, Daniel instructed. The IT technician immediately started pulling files from backup servers. We need to cross-check every frame with the elevator logs, keycards, and Annie's timeline. Nothing can be overlooked. As the first clips loaded on the large monitor, Daniel motioned for Annie to step closer. Watch closely, he said. Anything you notice that doesn't match your notes, tell us immediately. Annie leaned forward, her eyes narrowing in concentration. The footage showed hallways, service elevators, and the entrances to guest rooms. Her mother, Sarah Johnson, appeared in several clips, moving efficiently from room to room, performing her housekeeping duties, signing laundry receipts, and never once entering the VIP suite. See here, Annie said, pointing at a timestamp. This is when the original report says my mom was in the VIP suite. But she's clearly in the laundry area at that exact time. The service elevator log confirms it. Daniel's jaw tightened. Exactly. This is what we needed. Reynolds, mark this discrepancy and highlight it in the formal report. Every instance where the original report conflicts with the verified data should be documented. Reynolds nodded, quickly making annotations on the tablet. Yes, sir. I'm cross-referencing all anomalies with the timeline Annie provided. By the end of today, we should have a complete report ready for review. Daniel turned his attention to the security team. I want all camera feeds restored, every backup checked. Make sure nothing is missing. We need the entire 12th floor, and all common areas included. Every elevator ride, every hallway shot, every doorway monitored. No gaps. Complete transparency. The security head nodded. Understood, Mr. Harper. We're already coordinating with IT to ensure all frames are recovered. Any discrepancies will be flagged immediately. Annie continued to watch, occasionally pointing out minor details she had noted during her own investigation. "Here," she said, indicating a hallway shot. "This shows someone entering the VIP suite just as the cameras supposedly went offline. That's when the theft happened. But my mom isn't in this frame at all. Look, she's still on the service elevator." Daniel leaned closer to the monitor, analyzing the footage. Annie was correct. The original report had listed Sarah Johnson as the last person entering the VIP room. But the video clearly contradicted that. Someone else had accessed the suite during the window when the cameras supposedly failed. "This is significant," Daniel said. "It proves the original report was inaccurate. Reynolds, compile every instance where the timeline contradicts the records. Include timestamps, keycard data, and camera footage. We're going to reconstruct the sequence of events with precise verification." Hours passed as the team worked tirelessly. Annie guided them through her notes, identifying timestamps and cross-referencing them with the digital logs. Daniel observed, occasionally offering direction, ensuring nothing was overlooked. The hotel staff, initially skeptical of the child's involvement, now treated her observations with the utmost seriousness. By mid-afternoon, a clear pattern emerged. Elevator usage, housekeeping logs, laundry receipts, and security footage all corroborated Annie's account. Sarah Johnson had followed her schedule precisely and had no opportunity to enter the VIP suite during the alleged theft window. The inconsistencies in the original report were undeniable. Daniel looked at Annie. "You've given us the foundation to prove your mother's innocence. Every record we've reviewed so far confirms your work." Annie smiled faintly, the first real sign of relief since the investigation began. Reynolds approached with a tablet displaying the compiled discrepancies. "Mr. Harper, we've documented all anomalies. Keycard entries, elevator logs, and camera footage all support Annie's timeline. Sarah Johnson's movements are entirely consistent with her housekeeping duties. No evidence places her in the VIP suite at the time of the theft." Daniel exhaled, a sense of satisfaction washing over him. "This is more than just a correction to a report," he said. "This is vindication. Annie, your mother's name will be cleared." Annie's eyes glistened. "Thank you," she said softly. "I just wanted the truth to be seen." Daniel turned to Reynolds. "Prepare the full report for legal review. Include every piece of evidence, every timestamp, every verified camera frame. I want it ready for the VIP guest, insurance company, and internal audit. This is not just about clearing Sarah Johnson. It's about restoring confidence in our processes." "Yes, sir," Reynolds said, already typing rapidly. Daniel looked back at Annie. "Stay nearby. We may need your observations for any follow-up questions. Today, we correct 3 months of inaction, and we ensure your mother's innocence is formally recognized." Annie nodded, feeling a sense of cautious optimism. She had spent months quietly collecting evidence, while the adults ignored the case. Now, with Daniel's immediate intervention, everything she had worked for was finally gaining traction. Outside the office, life in the hotel continued. Guests checked out and entered. Elevators carried travelers up and down, and the cafe's faint aroma of coffee and pastries filled the air. Inside, however, the atmosphere was charged with urgency. Every detail was scrutinized, every discrepancy accounted for, and every record verified. By late afternoon, the investigation had reached a pivotal point. The compiled data clearly demonstrated that Sarah Johnson could not have committed the theft. The original report's errors were evident, and the misidentification of her mother as the culprit had been corrected in the verified documentation. Daniel turned to Annie. "You've done something extraordinary," he said. "You've provided the evidence that allows us to restore justice. Now, we ensure it is recognized by everyone involved." Annie's hands rested lightly on the edge of the table. "I just wanted them to see the truth," she said again. Daniel smiled faintly. "And they will. Today, your mother's name is cleared, and no one will be able to say otherwise." The work was far from over, but a decisive turning point had been reached. Annie's dedication, combined with Daniel's authority and immediate action, had finally set the stage for justice. For the first time in 3 months, hope replaced uncertainty, and the path to vindicating Sarah Johnson was clear. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, the team continued to verify the remaining camera footage and finalize the detailed report. Annie, beside Daniel, felt a quiet pride. She had not only gathered the evidence, she had guided the adults to see the truth. Today, she realized, was the beginning of setting things right. The afternoon light streamed through the lobby windows as Daniel Harper paced slowly, reviewing the preliminary reports generated by Reynolds and the IT team. Annie stayed close, clutching her bag, watching every detail unfold with an intensity beyond her years. Each new set of data, every verified timestamp, reinforced the growing certainty that her mother, Sarah Johnson, had been falsely accused. Daniel's decision to act immediately had set the investigation into motion. But the next steps would require more than just data. They would require understanding exactly how the discrepancies had arisen. Reynolds approached, tablet in hand, displaying a side-by-side comparison of the original report and the verified records. "Mr. Harper, the discrepancies are significant," he said. "Keycard entries, elevator logs, and camera footage all contradict the initial claim that Sarah Johnson accessed the VIP suite during the theft. The timing simply doesn't match." Daniel nodded. "Good. This confirms what Annie documented. Now, I want a deeper analysis. Check for any anomalies beyond what she noticed. Every access point, every potential loophole. I want to know if anyone else could have entered the suite during the window when the theft occurred." "Yes, sir," Reynolds said. He quickly instructed the IT team to run a full cross-reference between the VIP suite keycard records, elevator usage logs, and all housekeeping entries over the past 3 months. Annie leaned closer to Daniel, pointing at a section of her timeline. "See here? Between 2:10 and 2:18, the service elevator was moving consistently with my mom's duties. She could not have been in room 1216 at 2:18. Daniel studied her notes and then glanced at Reynolds. "Make a note of this. This window is critical. If the original report says she was there but she couldn't have been, someone either made an error or intentionally manipulated the records." Reynolds tapped on his tablet. "I've started compiling potential access logs for anyone with master key privileges or override permissions. That includes security, management, and a handful of senior staff." Daniel's gaze shifted to Annie. "You've been incredibly thorough. Stay close. If you see any inconsistency, no matter how small, tell us immediately. Every observation could be important." Annie nodded. "I will. I've been watching all of this for months. I can spot patterns." The IT team worked swiftly, pulling up camera backups from every angle of the 12th floor, the service corridors, and even the stairwells. Security footage showed Sarah Johnson following her normal housekeeping routine, entering and leaving rooms in a consistent pattern, never stepping near the VIP suite at the time in question. Elevator logs confirmed the movement of service elevators, which Sarah had used exclusively. Keycard entries matched Annie's timeline perfectly. The picture was becoming undeniable. Daniel motioned for Reynolds to join him at the monitor. "Cross-check everything. Every entry, every camera angle, every receipt," Annie documented. "Create a timeline of events from the morning of the alleged theft to the conclusion of her shift. I want it airtight." Reynolds nodded and began running additional queries. Within an hour, a detailed timeline emerged, highlighting every discrepancy in the original report and aligning the verified data with Annie's observations. The anomalies were not small. The original accusation against Sarah Johnson could not hold up against this new evidence. Annie pointed at a monitor showing a hallway camera. "Look, this is when the original report says my mom was in the VIP suite. But here, she's cleaning room 1208 and then moving to the laundry area. The elevator log confirms it." Daniel leaned closer. "Exactly. This proves what we suspected. Whoever filed the initial report either made an assumption or had access to manipulate the records. Reynolds, I want a list of all individuals who could have overridden logs or entered the VIP suite using a master key during this period." "Yes, sir," Reynolds said. "I'll compile it immediately." As the team continued, Daniel reviewed Annie's evidence one last time, ensuring that every paper, receipt, and timeline entry was accounted for. He could see the impact her months of meticulous work had made. A child had accomplished what the management and security teams had failed to do in 3 months. Annie, observing the monitors, suddenly noticed something. "Sir, look at this frame. Someone is entering the VIP suite at 2:12. They're wearing gloves and using a master key. That's when the cameras supposedly went offline." Daniel's eyes narrowed. Good catch. Reynolds, flag this frame and identify everyone with that key at that time. Trace their access and movements. Reynolds tapped rapidly on his tablet. Pulling access logs now, cross-referencing with camera footage. Daniel turned to Annie. You've done your part. Now it's up to us to trace this anomaly. If this was a deliberate manipulation, we need to know who had the opportunity and the means. Hours passed. Each new discovery added clarity to the investigation. Keycard logs, elevator usage, and camera footage converged, painting a consistent picture. Sarah Johnson had followed her routine faithfully and had no opportunity to enter the VIP suite during the alleged theft window. The evidence Annie had collected months earlier was now validated by the hotel's own records. Daniel looked at Annie, a hint of admiration in his eyes. Your timeline was accurate. Every detail aligns perfectly with our verified records. This is more than impressive. It's decisive. Annie felt a small surge of pride. I wanted them to see the truth, she said softly. Daniel nodded, and they will. Reynolds, prepare a formal report documenting every discrepancy and supporting Annie's timeline. We need this to be officially recognized and sent to the legal and insurance teams. I want every detail, timestamp, and camera frame attached. This report should leave no room for doubt. Reynolds nodded, already compiling the documents. Understood, Mr. Harper. It will be ready shortly. Daniel glanced at the monitors again, watching the team continue to restore camera footage, verify keycard logs, and cross-reference all housekeeping entries. The process was painstaking, but necessary. Every piece of evidence would be accounted for, ensuring that Sarah Johnson's innocence could be formally recognized. Annie stayed close, noting every movement on the monitors, every discrepancy that appeared, offering her insight when something seemed off. Daniel realized that her careful observations, coupled with the immediate and thorough action of the hotel's team, had transformed what could have been another unresolved accusation into a clear path toward justice. By late afternoon, the preliminary analysis was complete. Daniel reviewed the data, confirming that all of Annie's key observations matched the hotel's verified records. The elevator logs, keycard entries, housekeeping schedules, and camera footage all corroborated her timeline. Sarah Johnson had not been in the VIP suite during the alleged theft. Daniel turned to Annie. You've done an extraordinary job. Now, the hotel will officially recognize your mother's innocence. We've documented everything, and the investigation will be submitted immediately to the necessary parties. Today, justice is within reach. Annie's small hands clenched the edge of her bag, a mixture of nerves and relief washing over her. She had spent months collecting evidence in silence, and now, with Daniel's immediate action, the truth was finally emerging. Outside, the city continued its afternoon rhythm, but inside the hotel, the long pause of 3 months was ending. Annie and her mother's story was finally being told, verified, and prepared to be recognized by the adults who had once ignored it. For the first time in months, hope and resolution were tangible, and the path to clearing Sarah Johnson's name was now clear. Daniel Harper sat back in his chair and regarded Annie. Stay nearby, he said. The next steps may require your insight. We need to ensure nothing is overlooked. Today, we correct a wrong that should never have lasted this long, and we make sure your mother's name is fully restored. Annie nodded, feeling the weight of her months of effort finally bearing fruit. The investigation, which had started with her crayon timeline and small notes, was now fully underway, and she could finally see the path to justice unfolding before her. By early evening, the investigation had reached a crucial phase. Daniel Harper stood beside the large monitor in his private office, reviewing the cross-referenced logs, camera footage, and elevator keycard records alongside Reynolds and the IT team. The timeline Annie had created months ago now formed the backbone of the entire investigation, and every new piece of data seemed to confirm what she had long suspected. Her mother, Sarah Johnson, had been falsely accused. Daniel motioned to Reynolds. I want a detailed list of everyone with access to the 12th floor VIP suite during the time of the alleged theft. Include management, security, and anyone authorized for override access. We need to know who could have entered the suite when the cameras were offline. Reynolds typed rapidly, pulling records from HR and security. Yes, sir. We've already narrowed it down to a small list of individuals who had master key privileges during the critical window. This includes the VIP guest services director, the head of security, and a couple of senior housekeeping supervisors. Their keycard usage will be cross-referenced with elevator logs and camera footage. Daniel nodded and then turned to Annie. Stay close. I need you to watch every detail. If something doesn't match your timeline, you tell us immediately. Annie leaned closer to the monitors. I noticed that on the day in question, someone used the guest elevator at 2:12, right when my mom was still finishing laundry and cleaning other rooms. Whoever it was, they weren't supposed to be there. Daniel focused on the frame Annie pointed out. The video clearly showed a gloved hand using a master key to access the VIP suite. Reynolds quickly highlighted the timestamp. That aligns with the period when the cameras reportedly failed, he said. We can see the footage, but the angle is slightly obscured. Still, it confirms someone else entered the suite. Daniel's jaw tightened. Exactly. That's what we need. Now trace who had access, and who could have manipulated the logs. Every detail matters. The team continued working late into the evening. The IT staff restored additional camera backups from secondary servers, revealing more frames that confirmed Sarah Johnson's movements. She had followed her normal housekeeping routine without deviation, entering and leaving rooms as scheduled. Elevator logs and keycard entries fully corroborated Annie's original timeline, leaving no room for doubt about her mother's whereabouts. As the verification process unfolded, Reynolds came across another irregularity. Sir, I've found a pattern. On the day of the alleged theft, the VIP guest services director accessed the suite twice during that 22-minute window when the cameras went offline. There's no recorded reason for these entries. Daniel leaned over the tablet, studying the data. Cross-reference those keycard times with elevator logs and housekeeping schedules. I want to see exactly where this person was and what they could have accessed. Annie pointed at the screen. That's exactly what I thought. Whoever entered the VIP suite wasn't my mom. The logs match my timeline, not the original report. Daniel nodded, impressed by her persistence and attention to detail. Good. This is the proof we need. Keep following the trail, Reynolds. Track every movement, every discrepancy. Hours passed, and the team pieced together a clearer picture of the events. They discovered that the VIP guest services director had manipulated records to create the appearance of Sarah Johnson's presence in the suite. Elevator logs, keycard entries, and camera footage collectively contradicted the original report. Every timestamp aligned with Annie's timeline, demonstrating her mother's innocence beyond doubt. Daniel studied the compiled evidence. This is extensive. Every detail Annie collected has been validated. Now we need to document everything officially so that it can't be dismissed. He turned to Reynolds. Prepare a comprehensive report, including all camera footage, keycard logs, elevator records, and receipts. We need to reconstruct the sequence of events hour by hour. Yes, sir, Reynolds said, already typing notes and organizing the files. Daniel turned back to Annie. You've done the hard part by collecting the evidence. Now, we ensure it is recognized. This report will be submitted to the legal team, the VIP guest, and the insurance company. Sarah Johnson's innocence will be formally acknowledged. Annie's small hands rested on the edge of the table as she watched the monitors. Do you think they'll believe it this time? She asked. Daniel smiled faintly. They will. The evidence is irrefutable. You've done an extraordinary job, Annie. 3 months of collecting proof, and now it's confirmed by the hotel's own records. The IT team continued restoring all remaining camera footage, ensuring that no angle or timestamp was overlooked. Security personnel reviewed access logs, noting every master key usage and cross-referencing it with Annie's observations. The level of scrutiny was unprecedented, but necessary to ensure that Sarah Johnson would not face any further false accusations. Daniel walked to the large office window and looked out over the city. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the streets of Chicago, but inside the hotel, a new clarity had taken hold. Annie's dedication, combined with Daniel's decisive action, had transformed a stagnant case into a clear path toward justice. Reynolds returned with a final set of cross-referenced records. Mr. Harper, every piece of evidence has been verified. Annie's timeline matches the official logs perfectly. Sarah Johnson could not have entered the VIP suite during the alleged theft window. The original report is demonstrably incorrect. Daniel nodded. Prepare the report for submission immediately. Legal needs it. The insurance company needs it. and will notify the VIP guest. This ends the 3-month delay and restores Sarah Johnson's reputation. Annie's eyes shone with a mixture of relief and pride. She had spent months quietly observing, recording, and analyzing. Now, the adults were finally taking action based on her work. For the first time, she felt that the long hours of effort were truly making a difference. Daniel turned to her. "Stay close. We may need your input for any follow-up questions or clarifications. Today, we set the record straight. Your mother's name will be cleared, and no one will be able to question it." Annie nodded, feeling a sense of satisfaction she hadn't felt in months. Her meticulous work had not only brought the truth to light but also ensured that the justice her mother deserved was finally within reach. As the evening approached, the investigation was nearly complete. The hotel's records, Annie's timeline, and the verified footage all aligned. The evidence pointed unequivocally to someone else accessing the VIP suite during the theft window. Sarah Johnson's innocence was undeniable. Daniel Harper looked at Annie, a rare warmth in his eyes. "You've shown remarkable intelligence, persistence, and courage. This investigation succeeds because of your work. And now, your mother will have the justice she deserves." Annie smiled faintly. "Thank you, sir. I just wanted the truth to be seen." Daniel nodded. "And it will. We've ensured that. Today, nothing can stop the facts from speaking for themselves." The city outside continued its evening rhythm, unaware of the quiet triumph taking place inside the Harper Grand Hotel. Within those walls, a meticulous investigation led by a determined child and supported by decisive adult action was restoring justice, correcting months of inaction, and ensuring that Sarah Johnson's name would finally be cleared. For Annie, it was the first step towards seeing her mother vindicated and the world recognize the truth she had spent months documenting. The Harper Grand Hotel had quieted down after the flurry of activity from the earlier investigation, but inside Daniel Harper's office, the pace had only intensified. Annie sat at the edge of the large mahogany desk, her eyes scanning the monitors and printouts that Reynolds and the team had assembled. Each log, each timestamp, and each restored frame was now part of a detailed map of the day the VIP guests' money and jewelry had gone missing. The evidence overwhelmingly confirmed her mother's innocence, but Daniel knew the next stage would require precision, identifying exactly who had orchestrated the discrepancy in the first place. "Reynolds," Daniel said, leaning over the monitors. "Compile every instance of master key usage on the 12th floor on that day. Include every elevator log, every camera backup, every keycard swipe, and cross-reference it with the schedule of all senior staff and the VIP guest services director. I want a clear picture of who could have accessed the suite during the camera outage." "Yes, sir," Reynolds replied, his fingers moving rapidly over the tablet. "We've already narrowed it down to 3 individuals, but I'm cross-checking all secondary logs to be thorough." Daniel turned to Annie. "Stay sharp. Watch every detail. If you notice anything unusual, tell us immediately. Your observations have guided us this far. We need them now more than ever." Annie leaned closer, pointing to a frame on the monitor. "This is the one," she said. "See the hand using the master key? That's exactly when the cameras went offline. My mom isn't there, but someone is entering the suite." Daniel focused on the frame. "Yes. Good catch. Reynolds, highlight this and identify all authorized personnel with access to the master key at that exact time. Check if there were any overrides or anomalies in the logs." Reynolds nodded, already typing commands to extract every relevant record. "I'm cross-referencing security staff, housekeeping supervisors, and management. We'll know exactly who could have been there within minutes." "And cross-referencing." Annie's gaze flicked between the monitors. "I remember another detail," she said quietly. "The laundry receipt shows my mom signing out at 2:15. That's right in the middle of the window when the original report says she was in the VIP suite. Whoever entered would have had to bypass all service elevator logs too." Daniel's expression hardened. "Exactly. That discrepancy is key. Whoever manipulated the report or falsified the timeline used the short camera outage to create the appearance of guilt." Reynolds, include all potential entries through service elevators in the analysis. We need to see the full path. Hours passed with Annie guiding them through her original timeline, noting the details that matched and highlighting those that did not. Reynolds meticulously cross-referenced every log against the official records, highlighting inconsistencies and unusual access patterns. Each anomaly was mapped, time-stamped, and documented in a growing dossier. Finally, Reynolds leaned back, holding a tablet displaying the compiled evidence. Mr. Harper, the data is complete. The timeline matches Annie's observations perfectly. Every elevator log, every keycard swipe, every camera frame aligns with her records. Sarah Johnson was never in the VIP suite during the alleged theft window. Daniel exhaled slowly. Good. Now we move to the next stage. Identify anyone who could have intentionally created this false report. Focus on access, opportunity, and motive. Reynolds nodded. I've already started that. The VIP guest services director had master key access and entered the suite during the outage. Security records show discrepancies in their log entries compared to the elevator timestamps. It looks deliberate. Annie pointed at a small discrepancy on one of the printed logs. This one doesn't match, she said. See here, the keycard shows entry at 2:12, but the elevator log shows the car moving in the opposite direction. Whoever did this didn't follow the normal flow. Daniel examined the printout. Good observation. That indicates manipulation. Reynolds, highlight that and cross-check for any patterns of unusual behavior. I want every anomaly mapped to a person and time-stamped precisely. As the evening deepened, the team worked tirelessly. Daniel reviewed each step, making sure nothing was overlooked. Annie's role was critical. She had noticed details no adult had previously considered, including subtle timing issues, misaligned elevator logs, and discrepancies between camera footage and housekeeping schedules. By nightfall, the compiled analysis was nearly complete. Daniel reviewed the report with Reynolds. This is comprehensive. Every instance of master key usage, every elevator movement, every timestamp discrepancy, and every unusual activity has been documented. We can now identify the individual responsible for fabricating the appearance of Sarah Johnson's presence in the VIP suite. Annie watched the monitors, her small face illuminated by the glow of the screens. Do you think they'll admit it? She asked softly. Daniel turned to her. We're about to give them no choice. The evidence is irrefutable. The timeline, the camera footage, the keycard logs, it all points to someone else. Today, the truth will come out. Reynolds spoke up. Mr. Harper, if we present this evidence formally, it will be impossible for management or the security team to dispute it. We've documented every detail. It's airtight. Daniel nodded. Good. Begin preparing the formal report for legal review and internal audit. Include Annie's timeline as a primary reference, every camera frame, and all cross-verified logs. This must be submitted immediately. No delays. Annie felt a small sense of satisfaction, but she remained focused. There's one more thing, she said. The security camera near the service elevator has a faint frame showing someone leaving with gloves on. That matches the time frame when the suite was accessed without authorization. Daniel leaned closer, examining the frame. Excellent. Reynolds, highlight this in the report. Make a note of the gloves, the timing, and cross-check against all keycard and elevator logs. This could be the final piece tying the unauthorized entry to a specific individual. Reynolds quickly annotated the footage and added it to the dossier. I'll make sure everything is clearly documented for legal and insurance review. Daniel looked at Annie. Your observations have guided this investigation. Without your attention to detail, this would still be unresolved. Thank you for your patience and diligence. Today, your mother's innocence is going to be recognized formally. Annie smiled faintly. I just wanted them to see the truth, she said. Daniel nodded, a sense of quiet satisfaction settling over him. And now, they will. Today, we end 3 months of inaction. The evidence is clear, the timeline is verified, and Sarah Johnson's name will finally be cleared. The city outside continued its evening rhythm, but inside the Harper Grand Hotel, the truth was finally taking shape. With each verified timestamp, each cross-referenced log, and each frame of camera footage, the injustice that had hung over Sarah Johnson for 3 months was unraveling. Annie's meticulous work and Daniel's decisive action had set the stage for a formal resolution, and there was no turning back. By the end of the night, every piece of evidence had been cataloged, analyzed, and verified. Reynolds prepared the final dossier for submission to the legal team and the insurance company. Daniel reviewed it one last time, nodding in satisfaction. Tomorrow, we present this. Sarah Johnson will finally have the recognition she deserves, and whoever tried to manipulate the records will be held accountable. Annie watched him, understanding the magnitude of the moment. The months she had spent quietly observing, recording, and analyzing were culminating in a decisive outcome. For the first time in 3 months, hope had replaced uncertainty. The investigation had reached a point where the truth could no longer be ignored, and justice was within reach. The night had grown quiet outside the Harper Grand Hotel, but inside, Daniel Harper, Annie, and Reynolds were still deep in their work. Every record, every camera feed, and every elevator log had been meticulously reviewed and cross-referenced. The evidence overwhelmingly pointed to Sarah Johnson's innocence, and now the focus had shifted to uncovering who had orchestrated the false accusation and manipulated the reports. Daniel leaned over the tablet, studying the footage and data with intensity. "We know who had access during the window the cameras went offline," he said. "Now we need to establish motive. Why would someone frame Sarah Johnson? Reynolds, I want a full profile of anyone with master key access, including their recent activities and interactions with the VIP guest." Reynolds tapped rapidly on the tablet. "I've already started." The VIP guest services director had unaccounted entries on the keycard logs and unusual elevator usage during the relevant times. Security footage shows gloved hands entering the suite when the cameras were supposedly offline. "I'm cross-referencing with their schedule and emails now." Daniel nodded. "Good. And include any insurance claims, billing anomalies, or communication with external parties. If someone had a financial incentive, I want to know. We need to understand the full picture." Annie watched closely, pointing at a frame of the camera feed. "Look here. The gloves. That's the same frame I saw before. Whoever did this was careful, but not perfect. They didn't consider that I would notice the timing mismatch with the service elevator." Daniel glanced at the monitor. "Exactly. Attention to detail is everything. That's what makes your observations so critical." Reynolds continued compiling the data, connecting emails, access logs, and the unusual elevator entries to the VIP guest services director. "There's a clear pattern," he said. "This person was the only one with access to the master key and knowledge of the VIP suite during the window. Additionally, correspondence with the guest suggests a potential financial incentive. There's a pending insurance claim for the items reported missing." Daniel's eyes narrowed. So the theft wasn't just an accident or misreporting. Someone manipulated the records and created the appearance of Sarah Johnson's guilt to cover a personal or financial interest. Annie leaned closer to the monitors, pointing at the timeline she had drawn months ago. "And all the timestamps I recorded match the evidence. My mom never entered the VIP suite. Whoever did this used the camera outage to make it look like she did." Daniel nodded. "Exactly. Annie, your work has made this investigation possible. Every discrepancy you noted has now been verified and documented." He paused, looking at the camera feeds. "Reynolds, prepare a timeline showing all keycard entries, elevator movements, and camera